Hello everyone, this is Ben Brownlee here, and I'm going to be taking a quick look at some of the new features going on in Mocha Pro v3. And the main features in this release have really been sort of about core improvements to the toolset. So, I mean, the interface itself looks very similar to how it was before. But if we come over here and just expand this down a little bit here, we can now see that our layer controls interface is a lot different. We've got layer groupings, which makes it a whole load easier to keep track of your layers, especially on more complex jobs. So all of these layers here, well, we can, another thing, we can multiple select different layers, group them together. We will call this car rotor, and very easily change the overall colours for either the fill or the outline across the entire range of this group. Or of course we can go in and change this on an individual basis, which is kind of cool. So this means that when we're dealing with bigger projects or more complex projects, that we're not fighting against, hundreds of tracks or hundreds of layers that we're not, even working on a particular time. So it just means that we can keep everything a lot more simple, a lot more straightforward. And if we don't need to see something at any point, we just turn them off. Now, from a rotoscoping point of view, one of the biggest improvements that we've got, let's just create a new couple of shapes here. Yeah, one of the biggest improvements that we've got is actually this bounding box going on outside of our image now. So if we want to keyframe stuff up, instead of going in and let's just turn off our car rotor for a second. Instead of going in, having to select all the points up and then dragging those along, it's actually a lot easier now to start moving shapes around. And if we hold down the command or control key, we can also be doing distortion or skewing going on here. So it makes life a whole lot easier if we're going to do non-uniform scales, or we're trying to match up shapes without tracking. So that's been, it's always been a weird thing, is that Mocha's been so based around the planar tracker, which is all about layers distorting and shearing off in weird and wonderful ways, that the toolset hasn't been able to sort of keep up with that. But now we can. Now we can sort of just be shearing stuff up. What this means for us, it means that during general rotoscoping work, everything just works out a whole load quicker, because instead of having to adjust individual control points to do slightly more complex animations, we can now just work within the bounding box itself. And the cool thing is, if I've got multiple shapes going in, let's just quickly add another one up here. Let's give this a different color just because we can. If we select multiple layers, we can transform these together as well. So where the bounding box will sort of scale up to the same size as our total number of shapes, to the outer regions of the total number of shapes, which means that we can very, very easily work on more complex shapes. Say, for example, we've got a hand and we've got 20 different shapes that comprise that hand. For the main animation, we can just be selecting all 20 of those layers and animating those up. Or doing the main animation just with one transform, rather than having to go in and do lots and lots of little bits and pieces with individual control points. And if we don't want to see this bounding box here, we can just turn that off there. So if we're just doing some regular kind of tracking work and we don't really need to see that, then we can just be working with it as we would do normally. Now, when it comes to keyframes, we've still got the curve editor here at the moment, but we've also got our dope sheet as well. So if I open up my layer here, so if we want to easily get a good overview of our keyframes, we do it in the dope sheet rather than sort of be untwirling hundreds of different layers in the curve editor here. We can shift stuff around, copy and paste keyframes up. So that's really cool, that's really useful. More stuff that's going on with the roto tools here is, if we take a look at the layer attach tool here, this tool has been in Mocha and it's been used to join layers together to get sort of seamless edges going on. But what happened before was that as soon as we moved away out of the keyframe where we'd actually joined the layers together, there wasn't any more connection anymore. That's all changed now. So as soon as we start to move these around, these layers stay absolutely locked in together, or these control points will stay absolutely locked in together, which means that we get an absolutely seamless edge going on here, which is essential when we're trying to join, complex layers together, or especially if we're working in Mocha Pro for the remove tool. So when we're trying to get different planes working together, let's turn this on here, see what we've got here. So when we're trying to join, say for example, this side together with our floor down here, we don't really want any overlap going on between those two particular shapes because that will disturb our remove. So with the attach layer tool, we can now make sure that we have our perfect edge going on here, so that there's not going to be any of those joins or those seams visible anymore. And if we don't want those to be visible anymore, we can just come in and break that constraint, and they'll now be standard control points on their own again. And of course we can join, let's add another shape in here as well. We can join multiple layers together. Just drag that over there to give us some very solid objects and very solid shapes there. So another thing to look at is the camera solver. So all I've got here is just a couple of big shapes tracked in, going over here, literally taking less than a minute to draw and track these through. So I can come to my 3D camera solver over here, select my two shapes, and we can either do it with a pan, tilt and zoom movement, or choose whether the shot's got small parallax change or large parallax change. And in this case it's just a pan, tilt, zoom because the camera is mounted on a tripod. We can just solve that up, export out camera data either to After Effects or to FBX if we want to take it out to Nuke or to Maya. In this case we're just going to take it out to After Effects here. Now the FBX export's only available on Mocha Pro, and if we're taking it out to After Effects, you will need to have the After Effects Mocha Camera plugin available as well. So once that's available there, we can just paste that Mocha camera data in, and we get our camera plus the nulls for our layers. Let's come in and we will do test here, turn that 3D, copy the position over here. It seems to be working out all right. Cool, and we'll dupe that up. Change that up a wee little bit. Cool, and that's tracking in really nicely. Now if we've got a slightly more complex camera move, so for example this one here, what I've done is I've tracked in a number of different shapes. Let's turn my mats on and you can see these popping up. And they don't always have to be in there for the entire duration of the shot. And we'll take our layers that we want to be part of the solve there. And this is quite a large parallax change here. We'll choose our focal length. We can also choose whether our focal length is zooming or not. And we can just hit solve on this one and then let Mocha go ahead and do the solve on that. Then once we're finished with that and we've imported it into After Effects, we can take a look over here. We've got our, let's just close this up actually. We'll have our camera, which we can take a look at there. See if the movement's matching up. And we've got our objects all positioned in there as well. So all of our shapes come in as groups of null objects to help us sort of identify where things are. So not just identifying like the single shape, but we also can identify the entire plane going on in there and then do whatever we need to do. And the cool thing is that because we're using the same planar tracker to do everything, we can actually start to recycle shapes that we've been using anyway, or we're going to use anyway. So if we need to create a roto shape for this test tube here, then whilst we've got that all tracked in anyway, we can just be using that as part of the 3D camera solve. So, you know, it's actually quite cool to be able to have one more way of reusing our tracking and shape data. Now, the thing is, when using the camera solve inside Mocha, currently there is no sort of way of actually testing the track out within the, or testing the solve out within Mocha itself. You know, you do have to pop out to your target app to check to see if everything's worked out right. And, you know, if not, then you come back into Mocha and then start tweaking stuff up. It does also work on the adjuster tracks. So if we were to use adjust track at any point, then that would also, you know, help out our camera solve as well. But, you know, just like I always recommend when doing regular tracking, you know, if you can avoid the adjust track at any point, you know, just try and retrack it and get a better track in the first place. Obviously, that's going to be, you know, 10 times better than going in and trying to manually adjust your track up. There are other usability features as well, like the ability to merge projects together. So if you've got multiple artists working on the same shot, you can merge two projects together and quite easily create a a master project out of that. And another thing is the sort of fairly long overdue ability to just be nudging using the keyboard shortcuts. So, you know, the cursor keys now will just sort of nudge things either one pixel along, or you hold down the shift key to move it multiple keys along as well. You can do diagonals if you're using the number pad. So numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, they'll all sort of shift the shape around just a little bit as well. So that's kind of cool. But I mean, that's really been the sort of main focus of this version of this update. It's sort of coming in and taking, you know, the core base and the core strength of Mocha, and then just tweaking up those tools to do the stuff that you do day in, day out, and making sure that those little jobs are done a whole load faster. So as cool as the camera solve actually is, probably the biggest one that I'll be using every day is the selection box to be able to sort of distort my roto shapes up and just get those sitting in there really nicely. So that, coupled with, you know, the better grouping that we've got going on now as well, that's going to have a much bigger impact on my work life than the camera solve, I think. Cool, so that's a quick tour of some of the new stuff that's in Mocha V3. Hope that's been useful for you. My name's Ben Brownlee, and I'll speak to you again soon.